It does have a direct and profound effect on the flow of qi, the functioning of our organs, as I mentioned. But when you, if you do hit a place that is tender and you hold with a firm, steady pressure just for a few seconds, you might feel a little spasm or the muscle just firing and relaxing. That's a good thing. But don't expect it to happen all at one time. It took a little while to generate that level of tension or stress. It may take a little while to undo it. But you can, and it doesn't really take that long. The finger pressure is very effective in balancing and harmonizing the energy and resulting in overall health and well-being. So I mentioned local points and distal points. We covered 3 points last time. We started with kidney 1 on the bottom of the sole of the foot, and that is a distal point. Obviously, the kidneys aren't on the sole of the foot, but we affect the kidneys very directly by using kidney 1, that is the entry point, bubbling spring, for the energy of the kidneys. You can often tell people who have kidney problems, they are, those dark circles under the eyes. That can also be allergies or adrenal insufficiency, but that is often a sign of renal distress or this water element needing attention. And it's not unusual in that situation to find a person with tenderness on kidney 1. But there's so many things that the kidneys influence, growth and development, and as I mentioned, adrenal weakness as well. That's our fight or flight response. And when we're under stress, that is constant. If we were running away from a tiger on the Serengeti, there'd be a point where we could go back to our cave and relax to a certain degree. Now it seems 24/7. There's always a stressor, whether it's our health, the economy, politics, jobs, relationships. There's always something that we are ready to respond to, and this fight or flight really exhausts our kidney energy. So tonifying the kidneys is really important. In Chinese medicine, men, women as well, but it also stores the ancestral energy, our kidneys. So hair falling out, baldness, or premature graying, or receding hairlines. The head hair is associated with the kidneys as well, and just like the darkness under the eyes, hair thinness or falling out or those kinds of things are indicated as kidney deficiencies. So think of kidney 1. We're going to be doing a couple of kidney points. We're going to have another one today, actually. And premenstrual problems and night sweats are also associated with this because we're always in this state of activity, rushing around and drinking too much coffee, which generally pushes our kidneys. That energy comes from somewhere. It's not the caffeine. It is pushing our adrenals and our nervous system to respond. And so it gets exhausted over time. And that is a cause of we need to enhance that kidney energy. So there are herbs that we use for that. And I was going to mention that in China, in Asia, men at a certain age always use these herbs to help support their kidney function. Because, as I say, the energy of the kidney, their ancestral energy, it shows your lineage, it shows your ancestry, and if it's weak and manifests as a premature graying hair, falling out, baldness, that is not considered auspicious in Asia. Asian people take a lot of pride in their ancestry and their lineage. So you want to show a strong kidney energy, which is the storehouse for our ancestral energy. And it's what we're born with. So there's different ways that we get energy. One is what we're born with, and that is just a toss of the dice, what genes we get from our parents. but we can enhance or aggravate that. It's like the watch is wound at a certain strength, and it will exhaust itself sooner or later, depending upon the quality of that kidney energy. But we can enhance it by two ways. The air that we breathe through the lungs, extracting that pure chi from the heavens that we breathe, and by the food that we eat. And again, that's a function of the stomach, rotting and ripening and absorbing the nutrients properly and exhausting what they don't need. So the ancestral energy is stored in the kidneys. The lung energy is extracted from the air that we breathe, and the food chi is extracted from the food that we eat. So needless to say, both of those need to be pure as possible, both the air and the food. So we don't want our air toxic with particulate matter and toxins, nor do we want poisons in our food, pesticides, insecticides, other things that our foods are shot up with, hormones and antibiotics and the rest. So all these things contribute to our vitality. Any question about that? Okay.
I've got a question, Lana.
Yeah.
So if some of these places are accessed from the sole of the foot, we'll say we walk around barefoot all the time like I do, and maybe walk across the lawn and get a stone bruise or something like that, or some sharp thing. Does that mean the kidneys have been distressed just by stepping on a rock?
No, it's from stepping on a rock. Your feet were designed for that. That's primarily why we wear shoes. But it is better for you to walk barefoot, actually. That is fine, because there's a certain magnetic energy from the earth that we need. And we've cut ourselves off by wearing rubber soles, which disconnect us from that natural magnetism and electrical energy of the earth. Wearing cotton-bottomed or leather shoes, soled anyway, allows that chi to still come through. But wearing rubber, as you know, it disconnects you from the earth. But no, if you may bruise your foot, if you step heavy and you do come on a rock, you may get a stone bruise. That's true, but doesn't mean you have a kidney problem. It means that you just stepped too hard or on something too sharp and caused a little damage to the tissue. Wasn't able to accommodate. But yeah, we rarely, that's for me, walking on the beach is one of my favorite things to do. And the energy there at the beach is very strong, magnetic energy. And we absorb that. And if we don't absorb it and are cut off for extended periods of time, it does affect our health. And one of the things that we can do to restore our health is to be cognizant of that and to just make contact with the earth. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think I've also mentioned, when we're palpating these points, there are some contraindications, for example, areas of inflammation. So if you did injure yourself, if you do have a cut or a bruise, best not to palpate over that area. But if you're trying to treat the kidney, use the opposite foot. So if you have a cut or a blister or some sort of bruise or varicosity over an area of edema, you can use the opposite foot. I mean, these are bilateral. These points are bilateral that we're using. Always use both sides, but if for some reason you can't because of injury, trauma, accident, use the good side, so to speak, and you'll still be able to impact the energy of that meridian. So we were talking about, not only the physical aspects of the of the points that we're using, but they also have mental and emotional correspondences as well. We treat the whole body, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. I hear their voice, I hear, the particular problems that they've come in with, and I treat that person. It's not just the symptoms. The person can come in with people can come in with similar problems, but the etiology or the cause of that is very different. One can be liver, one can be kidney, it can be a migraine, but you treat it very specifically to that individual. So you're always treating the person and not the disease, which is very different from Western medicine. If you come in with a headache, you get this particular script or this particular drug, and we'll see how that works. If it doesn't, we'll just switch. But it is different in Chinese medicine or Asian medicine. You're treating based on a variety of things. The color of there's a color that's associated that's usually seen around the lip or the eyes. There's a sound of the voice, whether it's shouting or crying, or weepy or groany, and it's a quality, and that shows a particular quality in the energy of that person and how they're demonstrating. Some person may be talking about something and very angry about it. Another person could be talking about a very similar kind of thing and be fearful about it. Or another person could be weepy or have grief, sadness around it. So all those expressions are symptoms of the energy of that individual. Although the symptoms they present can be very similar. So, that's a little bit about contraindications. Use the good side if you want to use these points and there is some distress at that particular area. Use the contralateral side or the opposite side of the where there's some trauma or inflammation or skin is broken or blistered. Any question about that? So we had done the first point we did was a kidney point. The second point we did was a liver point. Very commonly used liver point, happy, calm. And that point is found in the junction between the big toe and the second toe. As you palpate from the toes and move your finger towards the proximal, towards the heart, you'll just dive into the point between those bones, between the metatarsals, and palpate that area, and you will probably find a sensitive or uncomfortable or painful point, and that's generally it. So you want to begin to sensitize your finger, generally your index finger, the tip of the finger, you're going to use to palpate for the point. And then when you find it, you can use your finger to massage it, or a knuckle, or a variety of things. So there's a lot of tools that people use, but I think your hand is best suited to do this massage on these points. And we talked about the liver functions. Liver really is, it's kind of an emotional organ. It governs emotional states as well. Anger is the predominant emotion when the liver is stressed. And I mentioned it gives us the capacity for organizing and planning, decision making, and it has to do with our eyes and our vision for ourselves, and to be able to see down the road and do those kinds of things. It's the official of planning. I mentioned that each of these organ systems are, we see the body as a kingdom, this kingdom of our body, mind, spirit, and each of these organs are like ministers, and they each have a function. And if one of them is distressed, it throws off the whole country, gets distressed. And another organ has to pick up slack if one is distressed, and that leads to further consequences. So getting the cause of the problem, so for example, if it's a kidney problem, the kidney is the mother of the liver. If the kidney is not doing its job, as the mother, the child, the liver, is going to be distressed. So you may see symptoms in the liver, but it's really a kidney problem. You assess that, like I said, with the color, the sound, the emotion, predominant symptoms. And as you treat that, then that liver problem, without ever touching the liver, will be improved or regulated. That's why we say we treat the person and not the symptom. And the gallbladder was the other point we did, and that is between the fifth and the toe and the fourth toe. In the same way, if from the toes you just palpate along the metatarsal, that's the long bone of the feet. The tarsals are the smaller bones as you get more proximal. As you come to the head of the metatarsal, that is just the distal to that is where the point's found. Those are the meta, or larger bones, and the tarsals are the smaller bones, just like we have carpals in the wrist. We have a similar kind of thing in the ankle. Am I losing everybody, or are you with me?
With you, Lama. So as far as the ministers, liver is the prime minister, or what is
the official of planning? It commands like a general in the field, and governs over a lot of different activities. The function of the liver is really vast. It controls a lot of different things: blood sugar, emergency situations, nutrients, removing ammonia from the body, neutralizing toxins. It's like a big filter. It produces bile, that's stored in the gallbladder, that aids in digestion and proteins and fats, particularly fats. So it has a big function, and it takes care of all of those functions for all of the organs. The official of planning.
Thank you.
And the kidney is the official of waterworks, that takes care of all fluid balance and those kinds of things, the official of fluid balance and the water systems in the body. Again, obviously, this is something that I really enjoy studying, and I hope you enjoy learning more about the body as well and its functioning. It's not something that we get. We all have a body, but we don't get trained in it so much. So if we have problems with our eyes or our knees, or we have bags under our eyes, and we're losing our hair, and we have hot flashes or different kinds of things, it's good to know what to do in that situation, and to be able to identify causes and conditions that lead to that. So hopefully this will be a way for you to understand your body better.
Lama, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So water connected to cold issues and liver connected to hot issues? Is that a general rule of thumb?
Generally, yes. Cold is bothersome to the kidney. People who can't tolerate cold, often that is a kidney function, but kidney does have to have its, the adrenals part of the yang aspect of the kidney. That's the kidney yang part of it. But usually, the liver heats up. But we have both a yin and a yang function in each of these organs, and it has to be balanced. If it's too hot, there's symptoms. The person's hot-headed, the heat rises up, they have migraines, they have hypertension. That is too much heat in the liver. So it's always a matter of balance. Though we might say that it's associated with the springtime as well, and that's when the new yang energy begins to rise. With the kidney, we're going into the winter time. Things are more sedate. The energy is cooler. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. But it is a matter of balance. We can't say there is a yin and yang aspect to each of these organs, but the liver is primarily yang, wood element is primarily yang, and kidney, bladder is primarily yin. And we see that in the season. There's the peak of the heat. It begins to rise with the wood, and then blazes in the summer, and then the fall it begins to subside. It's the time of harvest, and then things decline in the winter and go dormant. So in our body, it is a similar situation, and it's just a question of proper balance. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
What about these supplements to cleanse the liver or kidney? For example, milk thistle to cleanse the liver, and nettle to cleanse the kidney.
Yeah, those are fine. They've been used as part of traditional Asian medicine, pharmacopoeia. But knowing, again, what is what, and treating the organ, rarely do. Those are European herbs primarily, and Chinese herbs or Asian herbal formulas are often compounded in a particular way, that there's a carrier herb, there's a ministerial herb, there's a kingly herb, and they're put together in a very particular way to deliver the herb, to harmonize it, and to get the desired result. Even then, there can be warming herbs and cooling herbs. But as you say, to use a milk thistle, dandelion, a variety of herbs for the liver, and to use herbs that you have around you. Usually, we think of using the herbs that are around you and are seasonal tend to help. So that's fine to do that, yes. Our livers need a lot of help. They do that with drugs and with toxins and so many things. So giving them some support in the way of that is a good idea.
Does Chinese medicine have anything to say about colonics, coffee enemas for purging congestion?
Well, I mean, that can be suitable for a period of time, but if you overdo it, of course, the colon loses its capacity. So it does serve a purpose, but the idea is to keep it cleansed, move the bowels all the time, and eat appropriately. So there is a place for it, but it can be overdone, and the peristalsis can be affected by overdoing that. It's always a question of balance. You'll hear me say that again and again. But yes, colonics have their place, and from time to time, to cleanse the colon is a good idea. Our colons can be a real mess. But best to, through your diet and through the year, to try to maintain a healthy colon through having fiber and make sure you're hydrating properly and eating a diet that is non-inflammatory and toxic to your system. But you should be moving your bowels at least once a day, every day. And just like clockwork, the time for the large intestine is 5 to 7 in the morning. That is the time that the garbage man comes to the body, and you can train yourself to just move your bowel during that time. If you sit and give yourself time, that is one of the things. We're always in a rush. We don't give our enough time in the bathroom to do our duty. And train your bowel appropriately. That is the time. Each of these organs have a 2-hour block of time for it to peak. It's a diurnal cycle. And for the colon, it is in the morning, first thing in the morning. Okay, so we want to add a couple more points to our list here, and our next point is called Illuminated C. It is also a kidney point, kidney 6, and it's located in the depression directly below the medial malleolus. So that large bone on your ankle, medial, is on the inside, not on the lateral side. On the medial side, that is the yin side of the body. The lateral side is the yang side. So kidney is the yin organ. It's found on the medial aspect of the malleolus. In a depression directly below that malleolus, the big bump on your ankle. So take a look, see if you can find that. If you find the bump, just come down distal and find the point. It's in a depression between the bones, the carpals, and the large bone of the leg. So this point, its function is to tonify the kidneys and enrich yin. As I say, the name of the point is illuminated C, and it engenders fluids. It can moisten dryness, such as the dry eyes. The meridian runs up through the groin area, so it can treat hernia as well. And menopausal symptoms. Often it is, I mentioned, a kidney yin deficiency. This is a kidney yin point. So if you're having hot flashes or night sweats, this is a good point for menopausal symptoms. Edema, ankle problems, dysmenorrhea of any kind, of problems with your menstrual cycle. Frequent urination, constipation. Often it's dryness. So one of the things about constipation is just drinking enough fluid. That also is important for your bowel, as well as your back pain too. And this is also associated with the kidneys, lower lumbar pain or pain along the spine. And often it's a simple problem of dehydration. And just drinking enough water, keeping those discs plumped up, is an easy cure to a lot of back problems. When we get dehydrated, and coffee dehydrates one, you have to remember to drink extra water. As you know, I drink coffee, but you have to, there are certain things you need, like magnesium, which get leached out. And if you have cramps, muscle cramps, then you need the magnesium. And you need the fluids, or you will you get dehydrated.
Lama, would you just describe that point briefly one more time with that ankle point?
Okay, you found the malleolus, right, on the medial malleolus, that large bump.
Yes.
Just come right below it. Just come off of the peak of that and just drop down, and you'll dive into a little depression. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And it may or may not be tender, but it could be. So dry coughs, impotence, this also again comes through the groin, affects the urogenital system in its entirety, and balances hormones and body fluids. So it's another important point. I like it a lot. And mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects also, it quiets and calms the spirit when feeling out of control. Might think of this point. Clears the mind, pacifies fear. We say fear is associated with the kidneys. So this agitation, fear, anxiety, relieves feelings of abandonment. It grants the capacity for mental clarity, as I say, and emotional balance, spiritual illumination. Like a tranquil sea is illuminated by the clear light of the heavens, this is illuminated sea. Each of these points has a particular name, and the name gives some insight into the personality of this point. And all of the points are very specific. No point can do what another point can do. So we use these points very specifically. Any other questions? Okay, that is illuminated C, the fourth point that we've done. The fifth point that we'll do is on the charts, it's bladder 60. Its name is Kunlun Mountains. Kunlun Mountains. And that is on the lateral aspect of the ankle, in back of the lateral or the malleolus, on top of the heel. So if you're palpating, come back from the malleolus and come down over the heel bone, calcaneus. It's midway between the lateral malleolus and the Achilles tendon on the superior edge of the calcaneum. So that's the heel bone. And the Achilles is that large tendon. So it is between the malleolus and the tendon on the superior edge of the calcaneum. It's a fairly easy point to find. So you're going to press in and down against the calcaneum.
Lama, is this the inside of the foot or the exterior side of the foot?
The outside.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
The inside was the kidney, outside is the urinary bladder. This is a urinary bladder point. It is a yang organ. We said that the yin organs are solid and the yang organs are hollow. So the bladder is a hollow organ, like a balloon, it holds urine. Kidneys are solid organs, and consequently they're yin, and the yang organs move things through them. Hold things and move things through them. So the functions of this bladder point, it's the fire point on the kidney meridian, I'm in the liver meridian, I'm at the bladder meridian, strengthens the back, relaxes the sinews, facilitates the chi and blood flow, invigorates the blood, removes stiffness and pain along the spine, sciatica, ankle and heel pain, back spasms, and even occipital headaches. So the occipital is the ridge around the top of the cranium. That's the occipital area. So headaches that are in the back here, you might think of this point. It is my go-to point for sciatica and back pain.
Yeah, it's right there. You can feel it.
I just muted you, Larry, so you'll have to unmute yourself if you have a question. So mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it relaxes the mind. And it is the fire point. Each of these points has its elemental point. Each of these meridians has its elemental point also. So this is a fire point in the bladder meridian, and it helps to relax the mind, warms and soothes the spirit, enhances emotional warmth and compassion, removes fear and paralysis at all levels. So kidneys and bladder, the water element in general, is associated with the knees. And you know in the cartoons, when the character gets afraid or is scared of something, what happens? Their knees will shake. You'll see them tremble. Trembling and knees trembling is a sign of fear or anxiety or stress. So knee pains and this, as I was saying, removes fear and paralysis at all levels. Often our water element will also stop flowing and will be paralyzed, frozen in fear. And this helps to warm the meridian, warm the channel, and get things moving again when we are paralyzed or frozen with fear. And often it's the go-to point, as I say, for me, for any lower lumbar or problems along the spine. The urinary bladder meridian makes two channels along the spinal column. It is the longest meridian in the body. There's 67 points, ending on a point on the little toe, number 67, and begins in the inner canthus of the eye. So it runs along the head, the back, and along the outer leg and to the little toe, 67 points. So you can really affect the energy of the whole body through the urinary bladder points, literally from head to toe. Any questions? So we have kidney 6, start the 4th point, and bladder 60, the 5th point. We can go to the 6th point if there's no questions. And this one is on the spleen meridian. It's called 3 yin crossing, spleen 6. If you look it up in an acupuncture book, it is spleen 6. It's called 3 yin crossing. And it's called 3 yin crossing because at this point is the intersection or union or, it's called a reunion point as well, of 3 yin meridians, the kidney, liver, and spleen. So in one fell swoop, we can enhance and balance those 3 yin meridians of the lower leg. So this is found 3 anatomical inches above the medial malleolus. Now we're back on the inside of the malleolus, on the posterior edge of the tibia. So the tibia is the long bone of the leg, and the 3 anatomical inches. You have the perfect measurement for that. It is this area across the fingers. That would be 3 anatomical inches. And you put it against from the center of the malleolus and where the edge of proximal lies, right at the edge of the tibia, palpate along that point until you find a little depression or a little place that your finger, a little buzz, a little place there that your finger, it'll just kind of stop there. It may feel a little damp. It may have some kind of feeling to it. 3 yin crossing. Posterior to that large bone, to the tibia, edge of the tibia. So towards the back of the leg, towards the Achilles tendon. Does everyone feel like they found it? You know where the medial malleolus is, and you can feel the large bone of the leg. Just slide your finger up that 3 anatomical inches, and it will probably just dive into a little depression there. And if you palpate it, it probably is tender. This is a really remarkable point. It has a lot of functions, particularly for women and menstrual problems. It regulates, strengthens, and fortifies the spleen. It is on the spleen meridian. It harmonizes the stomach, which is the associated organ along with the spleen. It nourishes liver and enriches the kidneys, because we were saying a 3 yin crossing. It also, there's a reunion point there. So these 3 meridians, kidney, liver, and spleen, unite at that point. So you're treating all of them. So it harmonizes stomach, nourishes liver, and enriches kidneys, reduces digestive stagnation and dampness, enriches yin, regulates menstruation, treats pancreatitis, insomnia, edema, night sweats, dizziness, lower abdominal fullness, extension and pain, diarrhea, hepatitis, vaginal discharge, painful or restricted urination, prostatitis, as I said, menopausal syndromes, problems of all kinds, menstrual irregularities, infertility, sterility, and if there is difficulty in delivery or, yes, childbirth, it can be helpful as well. 3 yin crossing. Spleen 6. Point number 6. So mentally and emotionally, spiritually, it helps get the person moving again. Good for when you feel stuck in depression, self-pity, or me. Helps relieve mental or spiritual blockages, frees them up. Good for grounding. This is earth element, so it has to do with our sense of stability, of grounding, stability. Grants insight and ability to plan, again, because it's associated with the liver and the kidneys as well. To have vision, mental and emotional and spiritual flexibility. Wonderful point. Three yin crossing. We have so much problem. So when we say the spleen, this also means pancreas. You know, it says it treats pancreatitis, but it has to do with sugar metabolism as well. So as we know, people have way too much carbohydrates, excuse me, and diabetes is way out of control. So it helps to manage our digestive system, including the pancreas's capacity to process sugars, carbohydrates. The spleen also is like a big lymph node. You know, it produces antibodies, T lymphocytes, the killer cells, to help take care of external invaders. Breaks down red blood cells, worn out red blood cells. So, but primarily it's the most important organ of our immune system. So we want to keep that in good shape. And it shares energy with the stomach. It helps to transform food into food chi, you know, the food energy. It also helps to lift and hold. Prolapses, for example, prolapse uterus, prolapse stomach, the connective tissue loses its capacity, and then we have a prolapse. This helps keep organs in place and prevents prolapsing. Any questions about any of these points?
Mama, I know you've said this, but can you remind how long one could massage a point?
Yeah, it depends upon the person and their sensitivity, age, and a variety, but anywhere from 15 seconds to a minute. Don't need any more than that. Just directing the attention to the point is already beginning to stimulate it. And the firmness or pressure is variable. You should feel a little, it should hurt good, you know, so to speak. Too much, we don't want to bruise or damage the tissue, but just putting your finger and a firm, steady pressure, holding it for 15 seconds or so, or You can press, release, press, release, or make a little circle in a clockwise fashion. That is tonifying. So most people are deficient. Most people are not excessive. So a clockwise circle is tonifying. Counterclockwise is sedating or dispersing. So generally, we're going to want to do a clockwise rotation if you're rotating your finger over the point clockwise way, or firm, steady pressure straight in.
Thank you.
Lama, if we're building a self-care routine, is there an order that you think we should do these in? Should we start from the foot and work up, or do the kidneys at the same time?
In the way that I'm going to teach them. So in order that I'm presenting is the best way. So I'm starting with the feet and working up. And if we get through all of them, there's 36 points, and you can do that in 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Lama, what was the name of the urinary bladder yang point?
It's called Kunlun Mountains. It's one of the spiritual mountain range in India, Kunlun Mountains, or in China, I should say. It's where Manjushri hangs out. Kunlun Mountains.
So, of all these points that you've mentioned, is there one point that I would call it first aid, in a crisis that you go to specifically for like fear or panic related to some physical issue that's happening, for instance?
Well, yeah, it depends upon what the crisis is. So it depends upon what the emotion is. If the person's having a heart attack, they would bite their little finger. That's a heart point. If they feel like they're having a heart attack or they're in that kind of a state, it depends upon the emotion. If it's fear, then we could do the kidney points that we've done so far. But we're going to do as we go along, we're going to be doing other points that will be for first aid as well.
Well, this 3 yin crossing feels like a big point.
It is. We usually don't think of it for first aid, but because it does manage 3 meridians of the leg, it just depends upon what the predominant emotion is and again, the energy of the individual. But there are first aid points for drowning, heart attack, bee sting, a variety of things, and we will go over those. So yes, there'd be no harm in a situation to use 3 yin crossing to help calm. But this is usually when a person feels stuck, that they feel heavy, they can't get going. The earth person is usually very corporeal. They like sweets. They tend to be couch potatoes, and that is there's that heaviness that goes with it and affects the muscles as well. And they're usually not in very good tone. They're not inclined athletically. But that is the spleen. That's the earth aspect. Someone else, a fire element person, is going to have a very different presentation. So again, it's hard to say universally, but we are going to do some points that are well known for first aid.
Thank you.
But if it is for fear, I mean, if it is for fear, I would do kidney 1, the bubbling spring point.
Super.
That kind of keeps us in the flow. When we get fearful and anxious, we're paralyzed. As I say, we just can't get going. That's a different kind of not getting going than the earth person who is just heavy, dull, and can't just can't get motivated. The fear point is something different that creates our lack of movement. It is paralyzing in a different way.